There,
because I'll.
there we go. Okay, so first of all, a big, big welcome to my podcast, The Bonnie Earl Show, or The B Show for short. My name is Bonnie Earl, and this is a podcast for women where women show up and be authentically themselves, sharing what matters and why it matters. In each episode, be prepared to be encouraged, be uplifted, be inspired. And today's guest is a dear, dear friend of mine, whom I've known for at least 10 years. We met at a women's networking event. We found out that we had lots of things in common, a love of children, a love of family, a love of Reiki, a love of personal growth, spiritual growth, development stuff. Um, we had we've had a lot of laughter and tears over these past 10 years. And today's guest began her career as an oncology nurse and then a pediatric oncology nurse. And we know that takes a very special person to do that job. And then in 2018, my guest was diagnosed with cancer. And today she is going to share her journey over the past now 6.5 years, with the pure heart intention of making a difference in the lives of others. And so, welcome, my beautiful friend, Nola Peacock. Welcome,
Thank
welcome, welcome.
thank you, Bonnie. What a pleasure to be here and to spend time with you.
Yes,
Um, yeah, and I love the idea of your podcast and that, women just being, right, and
yes,
sharing, and yeah,
yeah.
beautiful, beautiful. Can't
And
wait to listen to more
when
episodes.
when I thought about this podcast, I thought, now who do I want to have on this podcast? And your name popped into my mind immediately. And you, Nola, are such an inspiration to me on just every level. And I love you so dearly. So this is a heart to heart conversation, us being unmasked, unscripted, just showing up here today. And so, where would you like to begin to talk about the diagnosis and then where you are now?
Okay. Well, let's talk about the day that I was diagnosed. And I was so positive. Like I was at that point, I was working with kids around confidence and mindset and right. So, positive affirmations and whatever. So of course, when I, found the lump in my left breast, I'm like, well, that's, it's going to be fine. Everything's good. Um, so, went through all the testing and whatever. And I happened to have an appointment, was actually supposed to be for a physical. And that was where I got my results. And then I had booked dinner for later to celebrate that everything was fine.
Mm.
Um, but I went into my doctor's office and she said, "Have they called you?" And I'm like, "Who? No, what are you talking about?" And she goes, "You have breast cancer."
Mm.
Like, what? And my first thought was, I'm gonna die.
Mhm.
Now that's, and as you said, I was a nurse. I was a pediatric oncology nurse. So I know that just being given a cancer diagnosis is not a death sentence.
No.
I know that. But that's where my mind went. I'm like, oh my goodness. So, then after I kind of slowed that down a bit, it's like, oh, I'm going to have to walk my talk here. I teach kids how to, keep control of their mind and focus on what they want, not what they don't want, right? And okay, I'm going to have to do some work here because, that's not. And also, I knew like being in fight or flight, right? Being afraid of dying, right, is not going to help my immune system or anything else as I go through this journey.
Right.
So anyway, so off I went for, for dinner and tried to put on the happy face. But then it was like, okay, now what? Right? Now what am I going to do? And so I mean, I had, time to prepare. And luckily, I did have that nursing background. I did, like, I look back now and I think, how do people do it if they don't? I really, because there are some big gaps in our system.
Right.
And anyway, I came home with a binder from my oncologist this thick with information. I threw it in the corner. I'm like, I'm not going through that. I'm not going to have them tell me that here, these are all the possible things that can go wrong as you go through this journey. I'm like, no, like I have enough going on in here as it is because I've been trained to look for what can go wrong.
I was just going to say, I mean, I would guess that having more information than what, quote, normal people would have could be both a blessing and not.
Right? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I thought, no, I'm putting that in the corner. I'm not going to go through there and read every single side effect that all these drugs and all the radiation, all this stuff can get. It's like, So I put that aside and I thought, okay, what is it that I need to focus on? And the first thing was I had a lumpectomy, and it was on Halloween, and I joked about being Frankenboob. Get my sense of humor. And I called in my friends, you, right, to send prayers, to send Reiki. And I really felt it. I remember being in the waiting room for the operating room and just, I'm like, I'm probably unusually calm. Like everybody else in this room is probably a little bit hyped up. And I'm like, this is okay. It's going to be okay. And because I knew like I had so many people sending Reiki and love. And yeah, so I knew it was going to be okay. And um, nurses, I mean, maybe teachers are too. I don't know, but nurses can be stubborn. At least I am when it comes to medical stuff. So when they rolled me back from my surgery, the nurse said to me, as soon as you go to the bathroom, you can go home.
Oh, wow.
Okay, good deal. I get up immediately, wobble my way over to the bathroom, squeeze out maybe 2 drops. I'm like, I can go home now.
Oh, Nola.
Get me out of here.
Yes.
Give me a Tylenol on the way out. So
Wow.
literally, like I didn't see my surgeon or anything afterwards. I'm like, that wasn't very smart. But anyway, but I probably, on something. Anyway, off I went. It's like, okay, let's get on with this. And, and again, I had lots of support, which made it okay. So then a couple of weeks later, I went to see my surgeon to have the staples removed. And I'm thinking, okay, and then would find out, what's the next step. And I'm thinking, it's going to be pretty easy, maybe a little bit of radiation, and I'll be good to go. Well, I'm sitting down across from him, and he tells me that they didn't get it all.
Wow.
That actually they had thought it was quite small, but it turned out to be 7.5 centimeters. And as he's telling me this, and I'm sitting, the room is spinning. Like I thought I was going to pass out. No. So it turned out I was stage 3, grade 3 already. And so it's like, okay, whole other, like, just the radiation, right? A whole other, your life's going to be turned upside down. Chemo, more surgery, radiation, more surgery, possibly. I'm like, oh, okay. So I booked a trip to Mexico. But okay, I want
Yep.
going, right? And then I can come back and deal with this. And that was when I kicked in and I thought, okay, I've got to have a care plan. So as a nurse, right, we create care plans for our patients, right? What are we going to do for them? So we can check it off and go, yes, we're, doing all the things that they need to be for their care and to get well. And so I did it kind of as a nurse, but also spiritually, because I knew, and mindfully, it's like, okay, I've got to take control of this. I can't be, you know, scared all the time. So it's like chemo. Okay. Mm, liquid love. That was my liquid love. So I
Beautiful.
created a meditation
Yeah.
and, talked myself through it. And I could, I would close my eyes and I would visualize this beautiful pink light going through the tubing and into my arm and then through my body, wrapping up the cancer cells and then excreting them out my body.
That is so beautiful. It reminds me of Bernie Siegel. Bernie Siegel has written a number of books about working with cancer patients, and he
Mhm.
said that if the patients have a positive feeling or image about the treatment, it will be successful versus, patients who fear the treatment. So what you're describing is exactly what he said works.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I was halfway through, I think I had a little a couple girlfriends over or something. I had a little celebration, and then at the end of it, I had a little dance party. Um, Girlfriends and I, we did a labyrinth walk through part of it. Like I celebrated milestones. It's like, okay, I've made it through this.
Yeah.
Let's celebrate. I even had and this was through partway through or COVID when we were, couldn't get together in big groups. So I did a Zoom party. But it was a ta-ta titty party. And that was right
I think
before.
I missed out on that. Darn.
Should have saved your cookie. Anyway, just I had partly it was, I mean, mostly Chris and I and just a few friends, and we shared some cookies. I found a lady and she made breast cookies. So I had some that were two breasts, some that were one, and yeah, and mixed them up and then yeah, had this little party. And that was the night before I went for my surgery for the mastectomy. So
Now, Nola, with this, so you're diagnosed with stage 3, grade 3, and it's okay. I'm going to take off and do a trip to Mexico, and then when I get back, I'm going to create my care plan. And what you described about the liquid love, so
yeah.
beautiful. Planning in celebrations for the landmark moments. Um, what was happening in your life personally at that point? Were you working? Were you self-employed? Like, what was
Self-employed.
happening in your personal life during all of this as well?
Okay. Okay. A couple, yeah. Well, self-employed. So as I said, I'd been working with kids and mindset. So I still did some of that. I still worked with some kids, but also in the back of my mind, when I realized how where my mind went when I was diagnosed, I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to walk my talk. So I also knew somewhere that, okay, I'm going to I want to be able to help women when I'm done this to
Oh,
get through because it's the same, working with mindset, right? And creating affirmations and having these plans. And it's no different than what I was teaching kids. It's just, right, different talk. So I thought, okay, I've got the tools here. It's whether I put them to work or not, right? And then once I do, then that can give me the opportunity to help women. So that was in the background. And so that was why, I wrote down a lot of stuff as I was going through it and I recorded some of the, meditations as I went through it. Um, the other thing was, yes, when I was first diagnosed, I was dating a wonderful man. He was about to retire. Um, so this was the beginning of October, and the end of November was his official retirement date. And I said to him, I think you should just walk away. Like, this isn't going to be fun. And he went, no, I'm not. And he, even though we lived in different places, we're an hour away from each other, he took me to every single um, chemo treatment, every radiation treatment. He was there for all my surgeries. He pulled out a drain for me. I mean, he has done things that he should never ask God to do, but he has, yeah, walked me through every step of the way. And so I'm very blessed. And now we've been married for a little over a year. So
yes, yes. So, I mean, what a gift that he came into your life. And and that you didn't push him away.
I
Like
tried.
you maybe tried to
Tried.
nudge a little bit, but it's like, no, I'm here for the long haul. And then, yeah, to now be married and to have this precious man by your side.
Well, and thank you for bringing that up because I think that's was has been one of my biggest lessons through all of this. And I think that, that's one of the things that when I go through tough times, it's like, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I, right? How can I turn it into something positive? So, as it's like, okay, I've learned this. So now how can I help other women? But this asking for help and being able to receive it.
Yes.
Because, it's like, can I help you? Oh no, I've got this. I'm good. But I sure learned to accept, even ask. There's, I mean, I'm still a work in progress and I'm learning and I will ask for help. And as I said, like, we doing a labyrinth walk with girlfriends. I mean, I'm sure you were there. Having a healing circle, right? And it was the most amazing thing having my friends all around my body and, with their hands supporting all of my weight. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. But just that sense that, they've got me. They've got me. And as I said, when I was in the hospital, and this was my second surgery when I went for my mastectomy, I was sitting, outside of the operating room in the waiting area and feeling pretty damn calm for someone who was going through this big surgery. And my surgeon came to see me, the anesthetist came to see me, a couple of the nurses, I think there was a resident, and they all reassured me that they had my back. Like I was just like, this doesn't normally, happen where they all take time to come and check in on the patient before they go into the operating room. And then my surgeon, I love him. He held my hand until I was asleep.
Wow. Wow.
So, like so many things. And so I mean, that's, that spiritual part. And that was another, part that was so important in being able to ask, right? Whether it was my angels or ask my friends, please pray for me, please send me Reiki, please. And it, like that made such a difference through my journey as well.
Like you were being held, like
Yeah.
being held, literally and figuratively. Um, right.
Yeah.
So there's so much more than what we are, that we know, that,
Right.
right? We're
Well,
not
and
just these
and that
bodies.
was
Yeah.
such a big thing for me because as a nurse, right, I only really believed in what I could see, right? So this energetic, this or Reiki, like I would be the first time, what the heck is that? Like, how could that possibly work? Well, and right here I am, we're both Reiki masters. It's like, oh yeah. And just having that proof, like there's no way that that without people Reiki sending Reiki and prayer that I could have felt that relaxed at that
Right.
point.
And I mean, it's hard to explain to other people, and it's almost as
Yeah,
though I don't need to anymore. It's just, I know that it works.
right. Yeah.
And that's all that I need to know. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Wow.
Proof's in the pudding, but it was just like, oh boy, thank
So you,
goodness.
so you come through the surgery.
Mhm. And then I had radiation and that was interesting because it was again a pretty easy, right? And I had, again, prayers and Reiki and stuff. But our minds are so powerful. And towards the end, like the doctor had explained that 2 weeks when I was done, that actually that was when the radiation would really kick in and start to do its thing. And so my skin would continue to burn and whatever. I'm like, okay. But even him at the very end, my radiation oncologist was quite surprised at how well I was doing, that my skin was doing. Well, I had a couple friends that were going through breast cancer as well, and um they had had more burning than I had. And I started to feel a little guilty. Like, who am I,
Oh,
right, to be kind of breezing through this, right? I mean, I didn't throw up once through chemo. I didn't get sick. I didn't wind up with a fever with any issues. How anyway, like I mean, it really, it was probably as easy as it could have been
mm,
going through what I did.
yeah,
Wasn't fun, but it was, um, but yeah, I started feeling guilty. Well, wouldn't you know it? I start feeling guilty and my skin starts to
right,
get
right.
red. And I'm like, oh, isn't this interesting? But the other thing was, I looked down and it was like two little angel wings on my breast
Wow.
was where the redness started, and then it spread. And it's like,
Mm, wow.
okay,
Mhm.
yeah, there's my message, right? And so it was, then it was learning to let go and go, okay, no, I am choosing to ask for help. I am choosing to ask people to send me Reiki and to believe in this.
Yeah.
And, I can do this again, right? I can. And so, it
Yes.
took a while
And it
to,
sounds like you were that we have a choice. I mean, that's one of the things that I've learned is that there are things that I don't have control over. What I do have control over, though, is my response. And so I can respond from fear, I can respond from love.
yeah,
And so it's all tied together.
right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, and again, looking back and going, okay, well, why did I have to go through that? Right. Right. And it's like, well, why not?
Yeah.
Um, but seeing things from, perspective, like as a nurse, right, and giving that care to somebody, and then being on the other end of it, it's like, what an eye opener. I remember hearing, my patients talk about various things, and then experiencing going, oh, brain fog, that, chemo fog, like that's what that is. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
remember you sharing a story about that, the brain fog, and how you kind of knew that was a possibility because of your experience. And so, can you share how you handled that, the brain fog? You prepared for it.
I did. I wrote things down. So because the first day that I really experienced it, I wasn't ready for it. Um, and then it was like, oh, what am I going to do? Because even as a nurse, I could not think about what I could do, simple things to help myself. Like, feeling nauseous, having stomach pain. Like you might want to think about sipping, getting some ice chips or, um, little sips of like, or maybe I mean, there's a triage number that I could have called, right? That they give you, put the card on the fridge. Um, I could not, I like that just, it was gone out of my brain. I could not. It's like, and I'm a nurse. I'm
Mhm.
like, oh, that's pathetic, right? So once I get, kind of felt better the next couple days, I made a list. Okay, so if this happens, right, if this is how I'm feeling, here's the things that I can do,
Right.
right? And then I sent them to friends. And I said, so if I'm having another one of those days, will you please text me
Mhm.
and say, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this?
Right.
And then I was okay, right? And
And
even when I got to the like my next doctor's appointment, like the doctor said, well, did you phone the triage line? I was like, no. Like it's like and it, and until you'd experienced it, like I was like, how could I be so like I'm a nurse? How
uh,
can I be so dumb?
uh,
But and that's it is, it's right. That stuff messes with your brain. And so
it's a real thing. And
it
you had,
is a real
yeah.
thing. And again, like I didn't beforehand, I didn't want to focus on all the possibilities. But once I knew that it was a possibility, I thought, okay, I've got to be, prepared for it. And I had coloring books and crayons in my bedroom by the chair. I made things as easy as possible so that, right.
Mhm.
And then, after that, the brain fog, well, then it was much easier because it was like, oh yeah, because and I found that for me, the fifth day after chemotherapy would be my worst day, and then it would improve. So you kind of get to know the routine, and that helps. And then again, you can, I could prepare more and have stuff ready. So
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And ask for help.
And
Ask
ask
for help,
for help. So that's a big theme, asking for help.
right? Because
I loved when you said about isn't that interesting? So when certain things happened, rather than going to that place of being mad or whatever other emotion there might be, just being curious about this. And so it felt like you were doing your best to hold things lightly and
Mhm.
putting things into place. That care plan sounds like it's that was an important part of the journey for sure. The support, your beautiful husband, and so then you've gone through all of that. There was a period of remission,
Yes.
yes, and then
Yes, there was. And then there wasn't.
and then
Um, a year and a half ago, I was having back pain and I thought it was a muscle thing. I had slipped on some ice. I didn't fall, but I had twisted it and it had got my attention. Um, and so I, went for massage and, different things thinking would help, and it didn't. And so finally, I couldn't, well, my dear husband couldn't handle me having so much pain. And he said, I'm taking you to urgent care. And I'm like, um, and so the doctor there too thought it was muscular, but he said, but considering your background, if you want to ask for a chest x-ray, that would be reasonable. And again, stubborn nurse, normally I would have said, no, that's okay. But for some reason I went, okay. Well, it turned out I had compression fractures in my spine.
mm,
And so they then wanted to send me off for a CT scan. So that took a few days before they could get me in for that. Um, so I came back and got the results, and they said, yeah, it's not cancer. It's you probably got, very soft bones. So you should probably get a bone density test done. And let's work at building up your bone density, and we'll give you some Tylenol threes or whatever and help with the pain. So off I went for another month, and I still, with the Tylenol threes, like I couldn't handle it. And so I went back again, and I'd had more pain in my ribs, and they were worried about a pulmonary embolism. So sent me off to High River for a CT scan right away. And I came back to Okotoks for the results, and it wasn't an embolism. There was cancer in my spine and my ribs and sternum and many other places.
yeah,
So again, I mean, part of it too was I was scared to death because I'm like, a month ago you told me I was cancer free, and now
right.
I've got like, well, according to when I saw my oncologist later, they said they never should have told you that that wasn't cancer, that that's exactly how it progresses.
Mhm.
So, which was, so that was a good thing. I was like, okay, so it hadn't just suddenly in less than a month gone.
Right.
Um, but was not good news because here I had celebrated a month earlier, I had pictures on Facebook and everything that I was cancer
Cancer
free.
free. Right. Right. Right.
Yeah, I'm okay. Flip
Uh-huh.
the switch, let's try something else. Um, and for about a week or 10 days, I was in a really dark spot because, as a nurse, I mean, hearing stage 4 cancer,
Mhm.
it's like, okay, that's it, game over, you're done.
Yep.
Right. Um, and then I just thought, well, but no, but there's things I want to do and I've got to do, and like I'm not finished. So
I can remember you saying that. I've got stuff to do. I think
stuff to do.
that wasn't
Pull
the
up,
exact
pull up your big girl panties and let's get on with it. So
exactly. Yeah.
and and I mean the truth is, and you and I have talked about this, we're all going to go one day, right? We don't know when.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's like, okay, well, I want to enjoy whatever time I have here, right? And so, let's figure this out and how I can do it. And I laugh now because another one of my friends I had talked to, and she's very intuitive, and we had arranged to have a phone call or Zoom call. And And then a few days later, and this was when I was feeling better and going, okay, I'm ready to live my life. Like, let's.
Mm, mm,
And she was like, do you think you could be in shock?
mm.
Nope.
For me,
No, actually, I'm just happier than I've been, and I'm going to do the things that, that I want to do.
and
Right?
talk about mindset. Earlier, you said about when you were first diagnosed, it occurred to you that you were being given an opportunity to walk your talk. And so it sounds like here again, you were being given an opportunity to walk your talk. It's about mindset. It's, I'm going to live my life. I've got stuff to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that's, and as I say, when I want to be able to help people, whoever it is, I think that's the biggest thing is that no matter what life throws us, we always have the choice. How are we going to respond to it?
Exactly.
And the truth is, like, I don't know what could be much worse than, being told you've got stage 4 cancer. I mean, that's most people, when they think stage 4 cancer, think that's it, right? You're done.
Right.
Um, and I'm not saying that trying to feel sorry for what, right? But it's like when people hear that, most people are thinking that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
Um, and yet, I'm still happy, right? Like I'm like, it's like, okay. I said, I've still got things to do and I'm going to do them. And I'm going to stick around as long as I can.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I'm really, truly, I'm no different than anybody else because we don't know. I mean, you could be, in a car accident, you could, right? You could have a
Life
heart
is
attack. We don't know. And it's like, why is it that we don't live like we are dying? Because
exactly.
we are.
Yeah.
And, like, let's go out and have fun. And, and one of the things since this too, it's like, we always wait, like, who how many times have you not attended, a funeral or a service of somebody that you love or care, right? But family. We make time to go to their funeral.
Yes.
Why don't we make time to go and see them while they're here?
Exactly. Which kind of that sparks the whole thing where you had the idea around why do we wait until somebody's gone to tell them how we truly feel about them? And
Yeah.
that goes both ways, right? And then again, you, in talking to some friends, decided let's have a celebration where we get together, and you wrote beautiful letters to the people in attendance. People there got to share what they love and admire. I mean, I love that idea.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful idea.
It is. And, I mean, we can read those letters over and over again, right? And it's just, um, and I don't want people to forget how much they meant to me. And I think it's so easy day to day to just, to be busy and doing our stuff and forget to stop and go, Bonnie, you mean the world to me,
Mm,
right? And thank you for remembering. I mean, even, one of my friends talking about, because our kids were, grew up together for a while, and just some of the crazy things we did as moms with our kids and sharing that. And we were, um, a couple weeks ago we were talking about that, and I said, I think we need to sit down with our kids and share some of these things like you and I have, right? As moms, we've talked about, that big puddle that we let them splash in or whatever, but I bet they don't remember some of those things. And I thought, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I just need to write them down for them too, right? Or whatever. But I just think, that that event, right? That tea and hearing people share, and then being able to give those letters to everyone and know that, okay, they know that how much I love them, that I care about them.
yeah.
I mean, that has just felt so good to me,
Yeah.
right?
And I came away from that feeling like my cup runneth over. And I thought, what a brilliant thing. And I would love to do that. I would love to hear all the good things. And it's like, okay, how do I want to be remembered? How do we want to be remembered?
Yeah.
And
Well, and I hope that, as you say that, one of my friends that, again, actually her daughter and I and my daughter went to preschool together, and I haven't seen her for years. And she reached out on Facebook Messenger and thanked me for all the inspiration that I put out on Facebook. And I'm like, oh, and for me, I started well a year ago, February, because I used to put sticky notes on my daughter's door every day for the month of February, just to let her know I loved her and right what's special about her. And because she's not living with at home anymore, right? It's like, well, can't do it that way. So I thought, oh, I'm gonna send her little messages. And then I thought, well, February has always been love month to me for not whether I had a partner or not, and I was single for a long time. But I would send messages to my friends or buy Valentine's cards for my girlfriends and for, right? Like just, I love you. Like,
yeah.
let's share that. And so I started last year, February, and I have, like, for my daughter, I haven't stopped. Every day she gets a little note from me, something encouraging her or telling her I love her. And there's been a few days I've missed on Facebook, but most days for these last, over a year now, I have done that as well. And it's not to, it's nothing to do with likes or business or, whatever. It's just, I like people to know that I'm thinking about them, that I care about them. And so for her to say that, like, thank you for inspiring me. And she says, I look every day for your messages. And she's been diagnosed with cancer recently. And I'm like, and there's been a few people that have said that to me. So, for me, I think if that's all that I've done,
Mhm.
that's enough.
Yeah, that is a beautiful thing, and I know that I too have appreciated your quotes and your notes of inspiration. I've also appreciated that we're part of a group gratitude, and that every day, and it's without, like, I don't know how many years that is. It's a couple of years at least, two or
Yeah.
3 years. That
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about that. It's over 2 years that
over
we've
two
every
years.
morning.
Every morning we exchange what three things that we are grateful for, and you usually are the one who begins the thread. And every morning when I wake up, I look forward to the gratitude thread among the four of us, and that's one of the things that I love about you is your that even through the challenging times, you find things to be grateful for. You think about other people.
Mhm.
um, you just have this most loving, generous heart, and
Mhm.
that you want to use what you're going through to help other people. And I mean, it's amazing. Um, earlier, early you talked about during the first diagnosis of putting on a happy face
Mhm.
and pretending that everything was okay.
Mhm.
And then there have been times that you have been able to reach out for help and
Mhm.
take off that happy face and ask for help to be able to share what is truly going on.
Mhm.
And so where are you now? What is truly going on? How are you truly feeling, my friend?
Well, and it's interesting that you ask that right now, because this spending this time with you and reminiscing and whatever, I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good.
Awesome. Mission accomplished. Yay.
I don't have to put I have to put the happy face on. It's there. Um, but I will say the last month or so has been a little bit tougher. Been dealing with a lot of pain and being really exhausted. And I think what what that has done is, slowed me down. Like as I said, when I got this second nasty diagnosis, it's like, but I've got things to do, and I still have things that I want to do. and my body is slowing me down and making it more difficult to do it. And um so I think, again, it's like, okay, where's the lesson? What can I learn? What can I choose? And um I think what I really need to choose is asking for help. And I actually did last night, which was a big step. And it's asking somebody to come over and just sit with me for an hour and maybe sort through a drawer or do like some little thing.
Mhm.
And that, I mean, that took a lot for me to ask for that for help. But it's like there's these little things that I'd like to clear off, the desk on the mess on my desk, or get rid of some clutter, or those kind of things. And right now, that is just such physically, it is such an effort for me to do that. And so I don't do it. And then, and because I'm so tired, even the sometimes reaching out to friends, I had a couple weeks where I was really, really depressed. Um, and part of it was because I didn't reach out at all, and that's not like me, right? I like to have that connection with my friends, and and I was like, okay, so what, like, what do I do? Because this isn't okay. Like and so it was okay. Well, how do I find a way, even though I'm so tired and I've got this pain? And then part of it is taking, drugs to help with the pain, makes you dozy. And it's like, how do you work around all of that? So then somebody said, well, is there a little bit of time from when you take your medication to, when you get really dozy? And I went, yeah, actually there is. There's a
Mhm.
little bit of time, 10 minutes or so before I kind of really feel, zonk and go and have a nap.
Mhm.
She says, well, why don't you use that time? I'm
Mhm.
like, good idea.
Mhm.
So I started, like having like a little timer, and then I would just like send a text to somebody, like, because I'm like, how long does it take to send a text message?
Mhm.
Right. I
Mhm.
mean, we're used to doing that. We've got our phones all the time. It's not that difficult. So yeah, so started doing that. And then, and then people would answer, respond, and and sometimes I would answer right away or the next day or whatever. But it was, at least it was that reaching out and hearing back. And I'm like, okay, this feels better, because was feeling, starting to feel really isolated. And it's like, what's the point? If I'm just going to sit here and sleep, I don't want to be here.
Mhm. Yes,
I
yes.
can't do the things, right? If I can't post those posts, even, right? I mean, so that was the other thing. It was like, okay, I got 10 minutes. I can, because I love playing on Canva, right? Those
Yeah.
posts, like, okay, I got 10 minutes here. I can crank out 3, 4, 5 of those. I can
Yes.
get pretty quick, right? And have
I'm
those
sitting here
ready.
totally, totally in awe of you. I mean, I continue to be in awe of you, how you continue to navigate. Okay, I'm acknowledging that this is how I'm feeling right now. This is awesome. This is Nola being real, and it's saying, okay, and I'm using these windows of opportunity to do what I need to do. And then I also know you have this huge team that is on the ready. And I had this thought about how, as a single mom, on Saturday mornings, I would make up the chore list, right? Saturday morning chores, housework. And it would be that we would take turns choosing one of the chores from the list, right? And then there would be a reward, a celebration at the end of the chores being done. And it's almost like that. Like I had this image come of
That idea.
Nola making this list of the things that she wants to get done, and then who could come and help you with these various items, because I know that
And
there
turn
would,
it into a party.
yes, turn it a good idea. There you go.
Right? There
And
you go. Then I wouldn't feel bad about, and right. And as I said, this is a work in progress. And I have been
mm,
thinking, okay, who can I ask? And I know, right? I do have a team of beautiful women around me. Partly it's like, yeah, I don't want to ask you to help me clean up my underwear drawer, but it really needs it.
hey,
But
I just finished doing mine. I'm an expert on that
it's like they don't care. I mean,
one.
my
Yeah.
one friend came over the other night and she went, You didn't clean for me, did you? Like, oh God, I quit that years ago. Like, no.
Or maybe it's just a date, choosing a date and inviting people over and say, here's my
Yes,
list and
thank
which
you.
one do you want to do?
Thank
And
you.
also to know, Nola, that yeah, there have been times of being tired and not feeling my optimal. And it's just making that one tiny step, which can end up being a
Right.
really helpful step. Yeah. And and I loved your always a choice. I get to respond to whatever's going on, and and that I'm choosing to live because I've still got stuff to do.
Right.
Now I know as a mama, I know as a mama, you are a mama, and our mama heart wants to love our kids. We also want to protect our kids. Um, how was that for you, for the mama part?
Um, that's been hard. My daughter is, 25 and she's engaged and right, so lots of excitement around there. Um, and she's had a bit of a rough go emotionally for some parts of her life. And so I've really protected. I know I've protected and
Mhm.
helped and supported her. And so, there's a few things. It's like when I, found out this, it's like, oh, like, do I even tell my kids, right? Do I want to protect them? And and even with my parents, I mean, my parents are 90 years old, right? I think they're going to outlive me. But um, but yeah, so protecting them too, and a bit of looking after. Um, but with I realized after a bit, because I did tell Krista that, okay, I've got stage 4 and this is, I'm gonna try this therapy, and and they say that, some people do really well and can, live 5 years and beyond, and whatever. Um, but then I'd had a scan, and it kind of showed that things had grown a little bit. And I'm like, what do I do? And I think part of it has helped knowing that she's engaged, and I really feel like, okay, I know now that she'll be okay. She's got her people, right? Not just mom.
Yes.
And so that's been helpful. But also and I thought, why didn't I do this before? I asked her, I said, you know what, Krista? I said, you're my daughter, and I always want to protect you. But I said, you're a grown ass woman. What do you want to know?
Mhm.
How much of what I'm going through do you want to know?
Mm.
She says, yeah, I want to know what it is. So we sat and we had a good talk, and I told her, right? And was upfront. And I was shocked because her initial understanding was that, yeah, I probably had 20 years.
Right.
I was like, wow, I did a pretty good job of
Yes, man, you did a great job.
really good job of going, wow, I'm doing well here.
Mhm, mhm.
And who knows, right? But
Yes.
I'm like, I didn't think I wasn't aiming for 20 years. But anyway, so I do let her know kind of what's going on, and whatever. But yeah, but also, and
And
ask me,
how has that been for you, Nola? Because I mean, I know that we have this tendency to protect, and now that you've asked her and you've shared, and that you know that she knows now
yeah.
more of the full picture, how does that feel for you?
Well, in some ways it's good. It's like our relationship is really based on honesty and truth.
Yes.
And, and then there's some days where, if have a few bad days, and it's like, oh, am I gonna, like, do I have to tell her that, right? And and sometimes I do. I sit and think, like, what is it going to be like for her when I'm gone? And I think that's you know, I'm not afraid of dying. What worries me the most or bothers me the most is leaving the people I love behind because I know they're going to miss me and it's going to be hard because I know that, like that's what I've experienced, right? I don't want them to go.
Mhm.
And so, that's the part. And it's like, okay, what, are there things that I can do to make it easier or right? And I think that was big part of why I wrote the letters.
Yes.
Um, one of the other things is like I'd like her, she's getting married August 30th. And I would like to do something, and I haven't figured this out yet, but something special there. Like I want her to have really special memories of that day.
Right.
So we'll figure that out. And I want to write letters to her future in-laws
Wow.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah,
have to take care
that's,
of my girl.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I love, I love that. I was thinking about that for myself. As everything that you said is that like for none of us do we really know. And after you and I had had a conversation, I came home and I was thinking about that. I thought, um, it is important to get the stuff in order, and then
Right.
it's well, and would I be able to sit down and write a letter to each of my daughters? And
Mhm.
I just choked up and I had such a difficult time even thinking about that. And so I'm not quite there yet. I know, but it got me thinking, right? And it's yeah, and to be able to do that, to sit down and share what's in my heart, and I think, yeah, that is something that I want to do, and will do,
Mhm.
because it's important. Yeah.
It is important. It is important, I think that, and I mean, I think part of what sparked that is because of the number of kids that I've worked with, and so many of them at times have told me about someone in their life that has made some like casual remark or little comment or whatever that has meant so much to them. And my guess is that person that made that comment, it was probably just like no big deal, right? They just
Right.
saw something in this kid maybe and just, wanted to share it or whatever. But how this child has held on to this message for so long, in a positive way. And I often wish that I could reconnect these and go, do you realize that when you said this or when you did this, this is the result for this kid? That kid held on to that and then went on to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
So there's so many, things like that. So,
Yeah.
and I thought, okay, so, that goes with our kids too, right? I want, um, and I mean, and I did some of the stuff I shared with Krista and just we had a great conversation. And I said, I wasn't always perfect. And these are some of the things I know I messed up. And also like you were growing up, you maybe thought you messed up, but here's all the X, Y, and Z that you did that was totally amazing. And all of the people that love you and all of the people that told me that, that you've done these things. And so, yeah, I think it's just, a beautiful thing to be able to share with the people, right? The
Yeah.
people that we love, because
Yeah.
they
Absolutely.
were not going to be able to. And,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know, yeah.
I love the beautiful peacock behind you. It's so beautiful, and it. I look at you, and you are that beautiful woman, and I love your heart. I love that you agreed to be here today and share your story. Um, just so heartful. The to share the things that you did that really supported you through your journey and continue to. I love that you are asking for help and that you are being honest with your friends and the people closest to you. Um, yeah,
Mm.
it feels right and it feels honoring. Um, yeah, and so
Just say thank you to you, Bonnie, because not everyone um, makes it as easy as you do to be open and vulnerable.
Mm,
So, I mean, you're that safe place. So
mm.
thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
That.
And so, just as we wrap up, if there were a couple of things that you, for people who may be going through a similar journey to yours, what might be a couple of things that you would offer to them? And yeah, just what would you?
I offer to them. Really focus on you.
Mm,
Would say, take a few minutes, and it may be, um, maybe difficult, right? To just kind of go within, because there's lots of mind chatter when this is going on. But just take a few minutes and, go within, drop in your heart, put your hand on your heart, and just, what do I need? And you may have to ask yourself, every day for a week or more, but see what it is that you truly need. And it might just be like a simple thing, like a hug, like, start like that. Those are the kind of things that you'll hear. And then ask, right? Get a hug.
mhm.
Is I think, sometimes we think, oh, we got to do these, great big things and create this care plan or whatever. But it's got to start with little steps. What are things that fill you up, right? What can you do? It's like, okay, I'm sitting here in this chair and I'm in pain and I can't really move, but I can do something for myself. I can find something. What is that? So, finding that and then creating a list. And if you don't have the energy to create the list, then you ask your friend or you record it or something and you create this list of, and like, at the beginning of my first diagnosis, I mean, I love kids, right? And bless your heart, you've sent me pictures of your
Yeah.
grandchildren, and I even have one of your handsome grandson spinning the pizza dough, right? And right. And so finding those little things that, and as you can tell, whenever I look at that video, it lights me up, right? Whenever I look at a little picture of your granddaughters, they light me up when I look at the little gift that it's just like that lights me up. I can't fake that, right? I'm not putting on the happy face. Those things light me up. So what is it for you that lights you up? And then surround yourself with that.
Wow. Wow. Oh,
Um,
my friend, you are so wise, and I know that every woman who listens to this is going to be inspired, and and she's going to come away with some gems to add to her toolkit to make the journey easier. And so I'm going to put your information below. You have Nola Peacock Coaching, and there you have three different things. There's the one-on-one,
yeah.
there's a group, and the third thing can't.
Is uh, um conscious um conscious circle brain fart. So it's just an opportunity for women to get together and talk about things kind of like what you and I have done today. Like let's pick on something. Have you done your will, right? Or what do you think about writing letters to your kids or whatever? And let's talk about that and let's get those things done.
Mhm. Beautiful. And so I will put that information below. And then I would ask those that are listening that if today's episode has resonated with them, and I'm sure it will, that they are sure to subscribe, share, leave a review. And then if you know an extraordinary woman like our Nola, who has a story that she would like to tell, or if you yourself are interested in being a guest on the podcast, that you will reach out, and I'll leave a link below for you to do that as well. And I love the consciousness part, Nola, of your business, because I truly believe in my heart that when we share our stories, we create healing for ourselves, we create healing for others, we create healing for the planet, and that we raise the global consciousness.
Mm.
And so thank you so much for being here. And
Thank you so much for
yes,
having me. I love you.
I love you too. And now I need to stop the recording, Nola.
Up at the top,
Up at the top.
at least on mine, it says.